Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about the true story of the Three Little Pigs, one of my personal favorites from when I was younger. So when we open up to the very first page of the story, we see a passage that says, "Everybody knows the story of the Three Little Pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because no one has ever heard my side of the story." I think this was a great way to open up the story because you know that you're going to be listening to something completely different than the Three Little Pigs. So the beginning of the story basically gives a little background on the wolf himself, Alexander T. Wolf, and talks about why he feels he has been framed for blowing down the houses of the Three Little Pigs. He also talks about how the reason he went to even go see the little pigs was because he needed to borrow a cup of sugar. The first time he goes and visits the little pig, this is what happens. "So of course the minute I knock on the door, it falls right in, because it was made of straw. I didn't want to walk into someone else's house, so I called, 'Little pig, are you in?' No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch, and I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed and I snuffed, and I blew a great sneeze. And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down, and right in the middle of a pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail." So, we know that now there is a dead little pig, and, well, naturally, because he's a wolf, he decides to eat it. We know basically how the rest of the story goes on, how he blows in all the other houses, except for the third brick house. So the passage that I want to read from there is when he is talking to the third little pig. And the wolf feels that he is being very impolite and not allowing him to borrow a cup of sugar. So here's what happens. "Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't give me even one little cup for my dear old granny's birthday cake. What a pig. I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed once again, and the third little piggy yelled, 'And your old granny can sit on a pin.' Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when someone talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course I was trying to break in the pig's little door, and the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene." And the rest, as they say, is history. So basically you can see from the story that he got all caught up in the pig talking about his grandma in a rude way, which I think anybody would, and is now framed for blowing down all these houses and eating all these little pigs. But like he said, we didn't know the true story on why he was actually huffing and puffing. He wasn't doing it just to blow down their houses. Poor guy had a cold, so of course he was going to sneeze, and their houses were not built the strongest, so whenever he sneezed, he blew them down. The last passage of the story that I think is great and captures the whole story is, "The news reporters found out about the two pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting. So they jazzed up the story with all that huff and puff and blow your house down, and they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. The real story. I was framed." I think that just brings the story together and really allows you to see from the wolf's point of view what had happened. Thank you for listening.